Mike, you voted for Obama, right?
3 times. I've never voted Republican.
And what drove you from the left?
What didn't? I mean, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I come from a background of punk rock world, singing in bands, and these people stand for against everything that they claim to stand for. They operate as authoritarians, they operate like a cult, and there's no room for free thought amongst them. And they think that they own the minds and personhoods, especially of every black person, every gay person, every woman. And there's just no disagreeing with them. There's no having a mind of your own.
I think that's what's unique. Keri, have you ever met a racist?
I have met a few racists,
Really?
but it's not this ubiquitous thing like they make it out to be, like a racist on every corner. And I believe, at least the part of the left that I was in, which is the part Grace is calling like a religion, they're racist. They are actually, in their behavior and what they believe, they are racist, but they think it's okay because they believe it's in the pursuit of ending racism. And they've changed the definition of racism and sexism to be these really narrow things so that they can claim it's impossible for them to be sexist and racist.
What drove you from the left? What was the catalyst where you said, I'm out?
There was a lot. It took me about 6 months, but the final thing was the safety pin thing after the election. So I was in a very specific, I was in the SJW part of the left.
Yeah, you did like lesbian comedy shows.
I sold SJW comedy is what I would call it. Comedy, I was in it to push an ideology through entertainment, through comedy.
That's a contradiction. There's no such thing as SJW comedy.
Exactly. It took me a while to
comedy has
figure
to be
that out.
offensive, that's the rule.
Well, it's not, and that's why nobody's laughing anymore.
Right.
So all the late night shows, I feel like, have become it's like church. People come and clap, but they're not there to actually listen or they're not there to be entertained. They're just there to see someone, like a political rally.
Right. It's Trump sucks. 2016 was hell. Trump is Hitler. Those 3 jokes again and again on a loop. And they need to keep, if they don't push that, those comedians lose their career. So you saw the left kill comedy and you said, I'm out?
That was part of it. The last thing, like I'll just talk about the safety pen thing quickly, was after the election, I reacted like a lot of SJWs. I spent the election night crying and like, what happened? But then I saw the left just descend into hatred and toxicity, and my entire echo chamber was like wishing assassination and death on people. And I'm like, wait, this isn't liberalism. This isn't what I thought it was. And then there became this thing of like, Trump won, so now all the women and gay people and black people are going to be put in camps, and so you have to wear safety pins to show that you're an ally. And then
you're safe with
that. You're safe.
And they talk about disabled people are going to get rounded up. Disabled people?
Yes.
Yeah, that happened, and all of my friends at the time were, male feminists, rape activists who all they would talk about is rape culture. Can't stand that term, by the way.
And it implies they have
were,
parades and T-shirts and stuff.
Of course. And, they were the ones who would not even allow me to speak of it, yet would then tell me how women have it worse and I need to shut up and just, and God forbid you can never laugh about it when those are things that actually help you get over it.
So they broke into your house? Someone broke into your house and raped you?
Well, it was a former roommate, but, basically.
Because I know of a similar story. There's a porn star named Cytherea. And a gang, 5 thugs broke into her house, gang raped her, and the feminist community was completely silent, didn't mention it. And you see this with these Yazidi women in Iraq, where they're getting gang raped by Muslims, and no one wants to talk about it because it doesn't fit the narrative. And I think people like you go, yeah, I don't care about the narrative. Rape is rape.
Yeah, and also, the days after it happened, I would have these SJW friends drag me to see these leftist political comedians, these male feminists who would just go on stage, and all they would talk about is rape, and now nobody can talk about rape except them, and rape is never funny, rape is never funny. And in that moment, I just thought, I don't know how, I don't know when, but someday I'm going to find a way to laugh about it, just to spite them.
So what did you suffer for that? You lost, you said earlier you lost like 90% of your friends.
Yeah.
For being raped. I mean, I'm sorry to laugh.
I mean, it wasn't exactly that. It was a series of events, but yeah, for me at least, it was so much, and I don't even really consider myself a conservative. I'm more of a classical liberal. I think there's a lot of intellectual diversity amongst us. And for me, it was 1,000 times harder coming out as a centrist independent than coming out as gay.
Well, it's
I saw someone in Texas rip a Ted Cruz sign in front of me. And it was in Austin where there's a Beto sign like every 3 feet.
Beto.
And I'm like, there can't be one Ted Cruz sign? Like, you're so offended by it. This woman stopped her car in traffic and got out and went and ripped the sign down. And I agree with what both of the Brandons are saying. I think there's a degree of, they encourage people to wallow in any mental health problems they have, so that it becomes a form of victimhood. And so because it's a social currency to be marginalized, that's one way they can say I'm marginalized because I have mental health issues. And in Texas, they are actually, Antifa is recruiting at the mental health center at UT. They advertise this.
You know what's funny when you talk?
They never listen. There's no learning. There's no introspection, which is kind of emblematic of their entire ideology, which is that if something is wrong in your life, it's always someone else's fault. And it shows in their behavior. And the thing is, I think with most of it, when you talk to leftists today and Democrats, they act as if we're living 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I hated the right and Republicans from 10 years ago for these neocons. I'm sure most of us did. Like, did anybody like the Bush administration? No, but the thing is, it's changing, and I think the most underreported story this decade is what's happening, not even necessarily the right, on just the non-left right now, where it's really becoming this sort of diverse mix of classical liberalism and conservatism and cultural libertarians, and
we are the counterculture now.
Come to a solution.
I do want to draw a distinction, though, between what I view as liberals and the left, as we call it, or SJWs, because I think a lot of I still consider myself a liberal, although I early voted for Republican for the first time in my life. Which
How'd that feel? Did that feel weird?
Well, it felt kind of like when I started eating meat last year. I'm like,
you were like, this is wrong, but it's delicious.
I was missing it for 23 years. Yeah, but I think that the liberals can still be reached, and I think a lot of the liberals are quiet because they're being told that this new type of leftism, this Marxism, or like Brandon's talking about socialism, that this is liberalism, and it's not.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to take the word liberal from me, and I like that we all, there's a lot of, like you said, intellectual diversity in this room, that we can all come together and we have more in common than we don't. And I think the biggest thing is that we don't, we've rejected that part of the left, and you can view it as all the left. If I'm okay with those differences of opinion, but there's a lot of them who I think could still be, they're just afraid.
Yeah, well, if they love liberty, then they're liberals. And you, Keri?
I don't regret it at all. It took me a while to get past my fear once my opinions had started changing, but once I got past it, it's like like Brandon said, you find out who your real friends are, and you're going to make new and more interesting friends, and it's going to feel like, at least for me, liberating my brain from a cage I didn't even know I'd put it in.
Yep.
So.